as a DM, I am oftentimes frustrated by the way players make death saves.
It can certainly take a tension out of a situation.
That's why we came up with 5 of our favorite death save rules, and we're talking about them today. Welcome to the Homebrew Crew. I'm Tony, this is Ed, and today we are going over one of my favorite topics, death. Death is always fun, right, Ed?
It certainly can be.
But not in 5th edition, and that's the thing that we're talking about today. Death saves in 5th edition, I think, are broken.
They do. It does give the players quite a bit of leeway, which isn't inherently a bad thing, but it can kill the gravity of a situation.
Totally. How many of us have actually had that paladin in the party just come over and boop someone on the nose for 1 hit point and they're back up?
And then the wizard pops up, disintegrate, and then boom.
Yeah, see, and it's not quite fair to us DMs sometimes, is it? Now, don't let your players know this, but there are ways that you can adjust these things, and we came up with 5 of our favorites, and we're just going to kind of go over them. Let us know what you think. So our first one here, and I've done this a couple of times, it's easy to do online, but it's a little bit more tricky to do in person, and that is hidden death saves. What you do is you have your player roll their die for death saves behind your screen. And whether you let them see it or the party see it is something completely different, but it adds a certain kind of, I don't know what's going to happen.
Again, it's how many times you've been in a situation or heard of it when it's, oh, it's okay, I can give him another turn or 2. You know, he's succeeded 2 death saves, he's got time.
You haven't played at my table, so I don't give another turn or 2. That's all it is.
I know.
Oh, from a player perspective, you're saying.
Yeah.
You see that, he's got one, he made his first save, he'll be fine, right?
Whether intentional or not, there is some metagaming going on. And
yeah.
It's kind of like part of the game, you let it happen. I understand that.
When in reality, if you're 30, 40, 50 feet away from your party member who just went down, you don't know how good they are. You don't know. Exactly. He's napping. He's fine. He's just taking a nap.
Well rested.
That's right. So having your players roll this behind the screen, I love the fact that my players don't know what their death saves are. Like, we just kind of roll it and let it happen. And surprisingly, we go, oh, you died, right? There is a certain point. It is still random. It's not like the DM's lying about it or anything like that, but it is a definite one. Now, the next one you wanted to bring up was the what was that? Critical hits.
Yeah, it was instant death on critical hits. Now, to be clear about this, it's specifically if a player is reduced to a down state, so 0 below, on a critical hit. And again, it kind of kills the thematic. It's like, oh, the Death Knight comes in, scores a critical, drops his enemy, and then boop, right back up. It can be a little frustrating, especially on something as significant as a critical hit.
Right, and if you take a look at the mechanics on that too, you've got a 5% chance of scoring a critical hit with a monster anyway, just the same as you would with a player, so it doesn't come around that often. But if a monster gets the chance and it's doing, it's normally got 4d10 damage, it's now got 8d10 damage, and he brings it down to 0, I'm okay with that being an instant death.
And it's thematically works, like you're fighting a dragon or whatever, and you're already wounded and tired, and it just comes in and hits you with the coup de grace.
Exactly. Do you think that Tiamat takes prisoners? I don't think so.
I don't think I would want to be her prisoner if she did take one.
I think all it is the 5 heads tearing it to shreds. Right? So that brings up another topic with it, and that is damage continuing after a person has been knocked unconscious. This next one is my particular favorite with that, and that is bleeding out. You make your players harder to stabilize by giving them a negative bonus to their death save roll that they're doing. So you start off by their first roll with a -1 to whatever they roll, and then the next round, and 1d4, the next round 1d6, next round, well, there isn't usually a next round after the 1d6 one, but if it does, a 1d8 or what have you. And it makes it harder for them to resurrect. It makes them harder for them to come back.
But at the very least, it puts more emphasis on that clock of like, I need to do something to stabilize this person or they are dying. They did just get launched 20 feet away by some giant swinging a club. Like, there's going to be significant damage to a body.
Yeah, exactly. It's not just going to be, he's fine. Look, he's pristine. It's not like you opened the tomb of Rasputin or anything, right? It's literally this person who's just been like clobbered to death by this thing. There's going to be some internal injuries and some stuff that occurs. So I really like the idea of making it more challenging that way, right? But you have a counterpoint to that.
And that's spending hit die to increase your death saving roll. Now, essentially what I mean by that is I roll a d20, I rolled a 7. However, I can then use one of my hit die to basically like Bardic Inspiration in a way to add to that roll. Now, it does add, this long term, is that you now lose that hit die until you take a long rest. So even if you start the combat, you try and take a short rest, you have less resources to manage in the long term.
Right, and I wouldn't recommend doing more than one hit die. You're not really allowed to add more than one to that thing.
Oh.
Or, I mean, if you're easy with your players, which I'm never, you could totally do that and say, okay, well, you can use up to 3 or what have you, and they roll their hit die, and okay, they're going to come back or whatever. But the thing is with that is that they are decreasing that for any short rest that they want to do. They have to do a long rest before that gets in there or what have you. And you may even want to limit how often they get their hit dice back on the long rest or what have you, especially if they used it in this way. It's a great little mechanic, and I kind of like it. I mean, it's kind of nice and easy for the players.
But it does also kind of add that resource management, that extra level, where even the champion fighter now is something you keep an eye on.
That's true, because those fighters and everything else really like their hit dice, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, bards like their hit dice. Everyone likes hit dice. All right, this next one here, and this is the last one we're going to talk about with it. This is my top 5. This is the number one that I love the most, and that is death save fails, stay. So you have a party member at your table, they roll their d20, they fail. They roll 2 more, they succeed. Great, that's wonderful. But that fail sticks with them. Therefore, the next time that they die or go down, now they've already got 1 fail against them. It makes it harder to rally.
No, I like it because, again, there's no real consequence for going down and then popping right back up. I look at it as kind of like an injury mechanic, where you're continually sustaining damage, and even though you're awake and you're technically not dying right now, you've been severely wounded.
That's right, and the thing is with that is you can use exhaustion rules to bring back those death saves, right? So you do the same kind of thing. You make it where, okay, you spend a long rest, you get back one of those death saves. The person has to recover. It's not dangerous enough is the thing. I have party members who live for God knows how long. It's, I got one that just keeps coming back. He dies and his patron just brings him right back. It's not only frustrating and annoying.
I watched you get digested. How?
Right, exactly. And you have to think about the realness in that. But the real point that I try to make through all of these things, and by all means, use one of them, combine them, use a bunch of different ones that you like. The one thing that I kind of want to point out with it is that if your players don't fear what could happen to them, they think they're always going to succeed. There's a reason why Gary put together, Tomb of Horrors. There's he's like, people come up to you and go, hey, I can survive anything. Great. Hold my beer. And it's like, there's a lot to it. So you got to make your players actually fear dying. And don't think that you're being malicious, because you don't want to kill your players and kill their fun.
Oh, there's no fun if you always win.
That's true.
If there's no stress of loss, if you can just walk in and face roll your way through, it doesn't matter.
Exactly. So with that, we'd like to know any other kind of death save mechanics or interesting mechanics you use to make death more interesting in your campaigns. Go ahead and write it down in the description below. We'd be sure to check it out in the comments and all that kind of stuff. We would love that.
And of course, as with anyone, if you like what we do, please like, subscribe, and give the bell a little ring.
That's right. It's always down there in the corner. I finally, after 4 years, can now know it's right there. And remember, guys, the best campaigns are always the ones that are homebrewed, and sometimes ones that are a little macabre. So until next time, keep brewing.